Who's catching your eye down there? What did Burleson had a good day, huh?
Burleson, he had a couple hits, I think, and Walker had a couple hits, and Mason Wynn had a long home run to left. The wind was blowing that way, but he still hit it and gave a little bat flip, but that's okay, I guess. And Miklasz was really good. Hudson got a double play to get out of one mess there. Tinkhans got touched up a little bit in the ninth, but Johnny Cueto wasn't very good for the other side there. In fact, he was taken out twice, and you can take a guy out in the middle of an inning in spring training if his pitch count is getting up there, then running back out for the next inning. Well, if Schumacher did that, then he pulled him during the third inning. Cueto was having more trouble.
Have you had a chance to talk to Skip? If so, how's he enjoying being a manager? And I know
he's liking it a lot. He says I talked to him the last couple of days. He's really, really enjoying it, and he's getting high marks from everybody. But well, I don't know how they're going to score any runs. That offense is not very intimidating.
It is not. You're absolutely right. So, but maybe they'll be better. Pitching's pretty good. We'll see. He's a smart guy too. Hey, Commish, I was sort of teasing you in advance because I was talking about Adam Wainwright and some of the somewhat alarming stuff with the loss in velocity and seems to have some physical elements, and so that always just raises my concern level because of his age. And some of his stuff started to deteriorate a little bit last year. What is your take on what you've seen, and where do you think this is going? I mean, is there a reason to believe he'll snap out of it and get back to at least being where he was last year in terms of quality?
Well, as always, he thinks so, and oft times he's right. He's not throwing very hard, but then this is the second start of spring training. I don't think he'll make any more here. His next start will be for the World Baseball Classic team in Scottsdale. He might pitch against. They play 2 exhibition games out there first, so I would think he'd get one of those against the big league trumpet, the Giants or whoever they got lined up there. He's had back spasms earlier in the winter, and then he thinks his leg drive has been affected by the recovery from that. He doesn't seem terribly alarmed. He's throwing okay, but Miklasz is throwing better, much better right now. If I was Coach DeRosa on the USA squad, I'd put Miklasz ahead of Wainwright right now. Their pitching is a little iffy for starting pitching. They have, a guy from Arizona is a good pitcher, but it's they don't have a lot of guys like Alcantara or some of the other clubs have. Merrill Kelly's the guy who's taken her from Arizona.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, man. I'm not trying to pile on, but I thought I had heard that they're not exactly stout in terms of their pitching, Team USA. But if Wainwright gets in there and makes a couple appearances before the WBC begins, and he's not throwing very hard, and there's be a concern about how effective it will be, do you think they'll start him anyway? And I know that's a hypothetical. It's not fair to you, but I just wonder how you feel about that.
Well, I think they would. They're playing, Great Britain among other teams. They could run them out there against them without too much trepidation. They have Mexico, Canada, and Colombia. I think Mexico being the best of that lot. So I would start him, Great Britain if it works out, and then the other ones will be all right. I mean, Mexico has a little bit of damage. The great Randy Rosarina is playing for Mexico now. I guess since he had lived there or something, I don't know how that works out, but he playing for Mexico.
How about this, Rick Hummel, the normally classy, almost always classy Rick Hummel. He's besmirching the Crown over there in Great Britain. How about that?
Well, I did the little study of their roster, and they don't appear to be, real stout. Just as the Israel team will be playing with Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Nicaragua, and our friend Jay Horowitz, the longtime Mets PR guy, who's now I think their historian there, has signed back on the PR duties for the Israeli team. And there's a Horowitz playing for him, too. I haven't got to the bottom of that one yet, but we'll see if that's a relative or not. But he says we're in a tough division. Yeah, I guess.
Commish, how, as a team, both the defensive players and, of course, the pitchers, and, the hitters, too, they're affected by the pitch clock. How do you think that's coming along as far as all the fellers adapting and getting used to it without too many issues?
Well, I guess we should have expected this, but the guys who are doing the best are the minor leaguers who have just been called up. They've already had it. They know what to do. And veteran pitchers like Quintana the other day admitted to me, he says, I was paying more attention to the pitch clock than I was my pitching, and the Astros roped him for 4 runs on like 6 hitters. And Cueto today, he was having trouble. They used his own pitch comm today. So the pitch comm, he was okay on the pitch clock, but the pitch comm got to him in that he didn't know what all the buttons were. They're not really marked on there. They were kind of in a sequence. And Skip Schumacher said he shook himself off twice in his own button pushing.
Oh, that's funny. That's really good. The games are shorter by quite a bit. And now I'm not ready to say, well, we can definitely count on that in the regular season. Because, as you said, a lot of the minor leaguers are already used to this. So there's probably more comfort in spring training than we would have anticipated. But it looks like it's trending in a way where the games will be shorter. Do you agree with that?
I think they'll be a little shorter. You got to factor in replays. There are no replays in spring training, and generally, right. And during the season, you have 1 or 2 calls that will merit replay, and that would take 4 or 5 minutes probably. You'll have more guys trundling in from the bullpen to pitch in the middle of innings than you do now. And that'll take some time. There'll be some more scoring because those balls up the middle and through the right side are getting through. So that I think that maybe the 25 minutes or so they're saving now, they might lose 15 minutes of that during the season.
The one, there's been a few funny things that have happened. There's no need to review all of them because people are living on Twitter just going absolutely nuts. Like every time there's a balk called or something weird happens, and like they were all going nuts about the fact that I forget what team it was. It really doesn't matter. But he asked for a new baseball, and he's kind of rubbed it, flipped it up in the air 1 or 2 times just to get a better feel or whatever. And so he didn't realize that the pitch clock was running the entire time, and he got flagged, and as he should. But it's like, and then there's the one complaint I've seen that I think that has some merit is that catchers aren't always set, yet they expect to be they expect to have the batter in the box ready to go when the catcher himself is not down there ready to go. And maybe that's something they're going to have to amend. So there's been some weird things I think they're going to have to work through to sort of come up with whether, hey, we're going to stay with this or maybe we need to change this slightly. Have you seen any kind of weird things like that?
Well, your good friend Max Scherzer took matters in his own hands. He thinks he has a huge advantage over the hitters now. The other day, he's pitching against Washington, and Michael Chavis was dissatisfied with how long it was taking, so he stepped out. Well, the hitter gets 1 timeout per at bat. So there's a man at first. So it's 20 seconds now that Scherzer has to deliver a pitch. He goes into his stretch and holds the ball for 14 seconds because Chavis cannot get out of the box without having a strike automatically assessed to him. And Scherzer said, I got this. I got this figured out.
That's pretty classic. I saw a headline. I haven't read the story yet. But I think it was today, he was experimenting with the pitch clock, and I don't know what he had in mind, what his motive was, but he wanted to push it, and he wanted to see if he could maybe get away with something that's in his mind anyway. And so he got called for a balk. So I'm not sure exactly what he was working on, but he was up to something. And have you heard from some of your colleagues or otherwise have you read, the New York Mets are having these – they even chased some media off, said it was like a private workout. They're working on some things that have to do with this, like some secret plays. I have no idea what that even means, but it'll be interesting to see how these teams maybe try to sort of game the system, for lack of a better term. Find little go ahead. I'm sorry.
There'll be some chicanery involved, and my theory is that I'm okay with it. I hate it, basically, but I'm okay for the first 6 innings of a game. Let's say you got the first 6 innings rolling around in an hour and 45 minutes. Well, that's pretty good. Well, now, if you got a close game, let's let the last three innings play out a little differently. You can add some seconds or just throw out the pitch clock entirely, because you got games are hinging on every pitch at that point. They're not in the first 6 innings ordinarily. And maybe there's a middle ground there. I hate to see a game decided on a balk or with the bases loaded ball 4 pitched because the pitcher took too long to deliver it. The game's over.
Right. That's interesting because you could add a few seconds, in late inning games. Would it have to be the stipulation that the game's close, 1-run game, something like that, tie game?
You'd have to say, 3 runs or 4 runs or fewer. 4 is probably a little high. Let's say 3 runs or fewer. And I don't know why they wouldn't do that. They've already picked up their tempo. They played the first 6 innings maybe 25 minutes faster than they would have ordinarily. Well, that's all they're trying to save is 25 minutes, right?
Yeah,
fewer than that.
And listen, if you're gonna completely depart from baseball tradition, any era, all eras, by putting the ghost runner or whatever that is in second base to start at extra innings. I mean, that's the one I dislike. But if you're going to do something that radical, what would be so radical about giving the pitchers and by extension the hitters a few more seconds?
Yeah, at least in extra innings, the pitcher will have 5 extra seconds because there's already a guy on base.
Good point. That's why you're the commish. Excellent point. What's your read on Jordan Walker so far? And again, you mentioned it, but it's 2 for 4 with a run scored and a strikeout today. What's your impression? What are you hearing about him?
Well, he's done most of his damage against Johnny Cueto so far, which is fine. He is, Johnny Cueto's been a top-notch pitcher for a long time, and clearly not in mid-season form. But I'm in right now. I want to see him play a lot, and he will, because Nootbaar now is gone. O'Neill's been playing a lot. Carlson did not play today, but I'm sure he'll get some action tomorrow. They want to see, Garcia play too. The guy had 39 home runs in AAA and AA last year, to see if there's anything there that can help him. He would have to be a bench guy, but maybe he could do that. But Walker's going to be a guy to watch. He played left field today. I think he's been in right field a little bit also. And he hasn't had any pratfalls in the field. There are, 25 games to go yet in the spring, so he'll be involved in 20-ish of those games anyway, I would think.
Rick Hummel with us from Jupiter. Let's look at not the rotation, Commish. Let's look at the rotation depth. And, there's a group of guys that the Cardinals have in place that they can turn to if, should any of their starters miss time. And I think we all know the group we're talking about, but, it's Hudson and Woodford, maybe Palante. You've got Liberatore. I mean, there's Graceffo's on the way up soon. I know I'm leaving a couple out. That's why I say it's a group of them. Who do you think is kind of advanced his cause so far for someone that they would entrust to maybe plug in that rotation if they need to do that?
Well, I think Liberatore, because he's got this pitch clock thing down. He had a very tidy outing the other day. It's about time for him to come around again. And I like him a lot better than I liked him before in the big leagues with no pitch clock. He works fast. He knows exactly what's going on. He's a smart guy, and he'd be the first guy. He and Woodford would be the first guys I'd call up from Memphis. That's probably where they're going to both start. And Palante, I think, will be on their club anyway as a reliever. So, but Liberatore's the guy that's advanced his stock a little bit more by having a leg up on the new rules.
Yeah, you raise a good point with him, too, that we think about the hitters maybe having a little bit of advantage because they're going through this, but it actually makes more sense. And it's an obvious thing that the pitchers who have been through this in the minors are really comfortable with it, and they may see it as an advantage because I saw where Liberatore was telling you guys that he's more aggressive and he knows he has to attack with his fastball. So I think a lot of it is maybe if he does get into that kind of rhythm, if Dakota Hudson can get into that kind of rhythm, that definitely I see the scenario where they're both better pitchers because of it. like you alluded to.
Well, Hudson did well when he came up at the end of last season. He was in the minor leagues for a little bit, and he had he went 9 innings one game, I think, or 8 2/3 or something. He was okay today, but he's much better, much quicker. Gallegos has been quicker. We'll see if that lasts into the season or not. But Liberatore is my pick to click for those who may not have figured on him being a big factor with this team this year. I think he will be.
Commish, Mason Wynn has certainly turned some heads at 99 mile per hour throw the other day, and today hitting a homer. And again, we're acknowledging it's spring training, and is doing some stuff against lesser lights, so to speak. But how much has he strengthened? I don't know that he needed to strengthen his place as a future guy that's making a pretty fast trajectory to the majors. He ain't going to make the club out of spring training, but you think he'll get here sooner? Is he been able, or is he sort of moving his own timetable up to an extent? Sorry for the long question.
Well, yeah, because Paul DeJong has been unable to throw for game speed. He's about ready. I think he had the sore arm, so the games he's been playing, he's been DHing. He didn't play today, so I'd expect him to be playable at shortstop in the next 2 or 3 games. But Wynn has gotten already a lot more time than he would have received if DeJong could have been able to play. DeJong is a back burner player right now, I think.
And what's your progress report, if there is progress, concerning Nolan Gorman in second base and his defense, which so many are fixated on?
He's okay. He was okay last year. He wasn't great, and he maybe wasn't good, but he was as good as people should expect. He wasn't involved today, but I think he's turned some double plays and stuff, and he looks better swinging the bat. So I think he'll be fine. Now, will he play second base, or will Donovan play second base? Donovan will play some other positions, of course, so that will makes him so valuable. But and Gorman apparently does not play any other positions. We never see him anywhere. We never see him in third. We never see him in the outfield. We see him DHing and playing second. So that's what he's going to do, I guess.
The one thing that I was thinking about, and I apologize to the listeners because I've been talking about this a lot, but the Cardinals are so smart about positioning. They have their guys in the right place, and with the shift, the overshift, and everything else, it kind of limited Gorman to being stationed, and generally speaking, if it's a left-handed hitter, stationed in one place. Now they can sort of put him wherever the heck they want to over there. And the other thing that my friend Derek Gould pointed out, the shift is a little, the ban on shift is really overstated. Sorry, because if they have Tommy Edman set up, shaded near the second base bag, but he's in legal territory, so to speak, he can start sprinting. Anybody that's set up that way can start sprinting to get wherever they want to get. I think it's with during the windup or with the release. I'm not sure the rule there, but they can sprint. And we know if he's set up by second base anyway, why wouldn't he be able, if you're worried about Gorman's defense, if it makes sense, you would have Tommy Edman get on his horse and get over there, and you'd have 3 infielders on that side by the time the ball's struck.
Yeah, that worries me a little bit because that might distract the pitcher a little bit. He knows what's going on behind him, and I don't know.
That's interesting.
I would keep that in abeyance for a while to see how the regular stuff works, and if there's too many balls getting through that they think would be caught with some adjustments, then we might see what you're talking about. But I don't know that I want to do that right away.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. That's just a theory. One reason I think maybe they would have another way to go. To your point, as long as they maybe see some other teams do it and see whether it's working well or it's kind of a distraction, as you just you just suggested. So
yeah, I think everybody's going to have their own card, up their sleeve somehow. Whether it's you play with two outfielders and one kind of short fielder one time, that would be very dangerous to have only two guys in the trying to protect a gap out there. I don't like that at all. I think the hitters have now adjusted to the fact that they can hit the ball anywhere they want to now. They don't have to worry about what the defense looks like just yet.
Yeah, it's a good point. You're making a lot of good points today. I appreciate that. All right, finally, Mr. Rick Hummel, how's Wilson Contreras doing in terms of establishing the all-important chemistry with his teammates? Do his teammates like him? What do you make of his personality? The fact that he was what was he doing? He was snapping at one of the Nationals the other day or something.
He said, "Why don't you just get on down to first base?" He was fairly pleasant about it, but it was like, hey, just go on down there, okay?
Does you get the sense his teammates like him, or they they get a kick out of his temperament and how how imposing a figure he is?
I think so. He was a little prickly sometimes with the Cubs, and they didn't like him so much then, but they like it now. Now, anything about their whole club is going to change in a few days when Goldschmidt and Arenado, who are basically the franchise, are going to be gone for 3 weeks. Right. And you have a whole lot of different stuff to talk about. You can't talk about them at all because they're not going to be here.
That's right. Commish, I know you're you're filing some stuff for Associated Press, and so I know you'll be busy, but have a pleasant weekend.
I will, sir. Thank you very much.
You think our side's going to win tomorrow night when the charlatans from Charlotte come in?
Oh boy, I don't have much expertise on that. I'm just waiting for the Battlehawks to play a home game finally. It's another week off from that, right?
Yeah, we got that. Hey, a big one against the fellow unbeaten Washington coming up.
Well, Sunday. Our team be on the road 3 weeks in a row like that. We could be a little road weary of that. That might be a tough game for our side.
Well, they're on the road anyway because every team's based in Arlington, Texas, right? So
that's a good point.
But I know what you mean. I know. I'm just kidding.
I mean, they have to get on a plane every week for go somewhere and then come back.
That's right.
And,
that's one way to look at it. Hey, Commish, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, Bernardo. Thank you.
No, my guy, Rick Hummel.